Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Hello, good evening, and you're very welcome to another episode of the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Joining me all the way from sunny Spain. Kev, how are we doing?
All good, slightly better than my beloved Liverpool anyway.
Oh dear. Fino, happy man in Scotland.
Yeah, good. Happy Burns night to you all.
Mm-hmm. Joe, glad to see you're on good terms with Hasenhüttl again. Southampton win again. Still in Brighton.
Very happy, yeah. King Ralph is still the manager, which is great.
Good stuff. Right, plenty of full programme of midweek fixtures in the Premier League. Of course, there's only one game. We'll run into that. Newcastle against Aston Villa, on Saturday night. We had FA Cup. FA Cup is still going tonight, but the Premier League returns tomorrow, and we start at Palace against West Ham. 7 o'clock kickoff. Palace are up, Palace are down. I've seen that it looks like Benteke could be off to West Brom, but you've got to be hugely impressed with how solid West Ham have become, especially at the back. And I actually would fancy you at least not to lose this game.
Yet again, West Ham kick off the Premier League week, and yet again, I feel like I've been lulled into a bit of a false sense of security for West Ham that we're actually quite a good team. That's it's a bit weird to have. I'm used to Rangers winning all the time, but West Ham 5 wins on the trot in all competitions. Really strong indicator that Moyes has this team exactly where he wants them to be. I think one of the big glaring things for West Ham is they need another striker. Antonio, I don't think is going to be fit for the rest of the season, playing every single week, whether that's the striker from Sevilla, El Nassiri, or there's been rumours about them taking Edouard from Celtic. But this game, I think if this West Ham team have any ambitions of European football, I think this is a must-win game, and they need to win pretty comfortably. Just for the confidence of the team going into that game against Liverpool, you feel like West Ham need to win and win well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure win well. David Moyes will take any kind of points. Palace are kind of in that situation now, like Wolves and Burnley and Newcastle, where they're hovering above a relegation 3 who are starting to fight back. Palace have won 1 in the last 6. For me, West Ham are on fire. They've lost 1 of the last 6. They've won 3 of the last 3 games in a row. Antonio scored the winner in the last 2, has he?
Yeah, so I mean, he shows how important he is. Now that we've sold Haller, we literally don't have any other strikers. We've got a young guy who's had some COVID false positive tests, and it's been a nightmare trying to get him back up to speed. But yeah, I mean, West Ham were solid, if not uneventful, but I think it was the reverse fixture of this when Crystal Palace came to the London Stadium. I thought, West Ham can really put a marker down, and we really didn't look very well. I think we scrambled a 1-1 draw, and Benteke got sent off. And I think, these are the games that West Ham need to put teams to bed if they've got any serious ambitions of being anything beyond a mid-table team.
Yeah, is David Moyes really starting to stamp his authority on the team? Like, they kind of remind me a little bit of Moyes' Everton before he went to the Manchester United job. How solid they were at the back, and it's tough to beat. And like if they got somebody up top like Antonio, that's all you seem to need. And if you're winning 1-0 or by the odd goal, who cares once you're winning?
Yeah, look, I think Moyes has come in for some stick over the last few years, but he seems to have turned it around in quite a substantial way. And, we saw it when he brought in Masuaku and Cresswell playing on the left together, that he's not afraid to, put in a little bit of tactical nous. But look, West Ham really do need to win this game, and I think need to win well.
Yeah, I think you might get over the line. Fino, West Ham win, Joe?
I think so, yeah, absolutely. You made some really good points in. I just think another point to make is that I was half expecting someone to maybe come in for Declan Rice in this window, because he's been outstanding all season. But I think there's only 5 or 6 days left to go now in the window, and it looks like you're going to keep hold of him, which I think is huge for West Ham. How long you can keep hold of him is another question.
I think we'll get onto it in a minute, but it seems that Lampard was really the driving force behind any of Chelsea's interest, and now that he's departed, it looks like he'll be there for the medium term, at least until the end of the season. And yeah, I mean, I think West Ham probably do need to at some point cash in we aren't cash rich, and he is a very sellable asset that could turn into 3 or 4 new players and provide even stronger squad depth. But, if we can keep him for the next 6 months and we can get Europe, then it's well worth it.
Yeah, Palace against West Ham at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Also on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock at St James's Park. Newcastle against Leeds. Newcastle were the only Premier League team in action away at Aston Villa on Saturday night. And I have to say, it's just gone from bad to worse, to worse, to worse again. And there's new levels of... And now I'm actually asking myself, and I've seen some Newcastle fans on the forum are saying, is this the worst team we've had in the last 20, 30 years? Is this the worst? I actually think Newcastle are easily the worst coach team in the league. And, I think they can't get any worse. And then you just watch that game the other night. And Aston Villa were just knocking the ball around at ease. They're 2-0 up early. The first goal was an absolute shambles. The second one went off the inner side of the bar, but nobody closed them down. They offered nothing up front at all. And, he brought on St. Maxima, who came back from injury for the last 20 minutes. And he looked okay. It was the only kind of, shining light. But it's Steve Bruce's, his refusal to kind of, I think, accept responsibility. And some of the stuff he's come out with, like the gloves are off. And instead of saying, he's come out with saying, well, I've been managing for over 50 games, or 200 games, in the Premier League. But, for who and what have you done?
Well, the only thing I'd say here is I think what you've said there about them being the worst coach team in the division is really interesting, right? And I wonder if we're kind of reaching the end of the era when you could just get a former, a good player from the past who's never really, done that level of, study, you might say, of the likes of a Klopp or a Mourinho. I wonder if we're reaching the end of that sort of, CV being useful in the thing. But the only thing I'd say is Leeds might not be such a bad team for Newcastle to play, right? They're on a bit of a dodgy run themselves. They're probably the opposite, aren't they? Because he's one of those coaches who's universally respected, in the football game, Bielsa. And so you're up against, someone who perhaps, let's just say, doesn't have that universal respect as a coach going through. So it's an interesting matchup. But if I was Newcastle, I'd be thinking, I wouldn't mind a Leeds side who are really unpredictable and have lost their last 2. So, a glimmer of hope maybe for Newcastle. But I am trying to just look on the bright side because really I think you're a worse side than them and I think they should be,
Yeah, I'm trying my best, Kev, to look at the bright side, and it's just a cloud of darkness. I can't see any bright side, and I'm looking in awe at the Aston Villa players who came in at the start of the season, and how much better in every single position they are compared to every single player on the Newcastle team, from Ollie Watkins to the guy at centre half, Fonza, to this other the guy that scored the second goal. I can't Traore, I think his name was. I'm not sure. Douglas Luiz in midfield. They brought in Ross Barkley on loan, and compared to Newcastle, it's depressing.
What's interesting though is I've talked about it in the West Ham one, but we should also talk about the reverse fixture of Leeds against Newcastle, because that was quite an interesting game in that I think you lost 5-2, but actually Newcastle played pretty well in that game, and 2 or 3 great Leeds goals aside, Newcastle were very much in for a point, if not all 3. The issue with Leeds at the moment is that they're just not scoring. I think in their last 3 games, they've been outscored 7-0, and they need to find their shooting boots because of the way that Leeds play this wonderful, expansive football. And so I think Newcastle should go into this game being buoyed by the fact that, when they put the ball into the box and they had those set pieces, they did cause Leeds a lot of problems. And if they're tight at the back, they could definitely hold Leeds here.
I mean, that's all well and good in theory. Newcastle, like I said, Leeds conceded 7. Newcastle haven't scored in a while. And, that Leeds game, they were ahead twice, yeah, sure. But Leeds came back and destroyed them on the break in the end of the last few minutes and got a few goals. Newcastle don't look like creating a chance. We didn't create one clear-cut chance against Aston Villa. Now, then you're also, the one creative player really is St. Maxima. And Steve Bruce has been guilty before of rushing him back too soon or playing him too much. And, but I don't think he's got a choice. And, Joe, you brought up a few weeks ago, but Andy Carroll after the FA Cup, was he going to be the guy to change things? Andy Carroll really didn't, he's struggling for pace because of his age and his size. And unless you get the ball into him, and even then, Villa dealt with it really well. Callum Wilson was off the pace. He's trying to change things around midfield. But the other thing is the players as well. Maybe they're just not good enough, and they haven't really invested. If you look at a team like Villa, but that's because the Villa owner gave the coach 200 million to spend, and he used it wisely. Mike Ashley is never going to give their manager that much money, and anyone else there's no way Rafa Benitez is going to come back. I knew that as soon as I heard Rafa left China, the rumours came out. He came out publicly and said that Newcastle will never progress under Mike Ashley. So there's no way Mike Ashley is going to take him back. What Mike Ashley needs is a puppet, someone who's just going to keep them up and then spend the minimum amount of money and make the maximum amount of money from the Premier League in return. But if they lose against Leeds, which I expect them to lose against Leeds, then you've got a few days left to get somebody in. But I'm looking at news recently, and I do not think that it's going to happen, because there's big rumours that Newcastle are about to sign a new number 2 from Bournemouth. The name lost me there for a second. Graham Jones, I think, is going to come in as a new number 2 to help Steve Bruce, which means that Bruce is going nowhere. And tactically, I just feel like he's numb, and there's no creativity, there's nothing there. Question the players, question him, and I don't want to sound like a scratch record, but really, I looked at the next 4 or 5 fixtures, and I can see Newcastle losing every single one of them, and it'll be a miracle at this stage if they stay up. So, yeah, that's my prediction for Newcastle against Leeds on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Moving on to positive pastures, Joe. 9:15. Southampton, who just beat Arsenal in the Cup, beat Arsenal's second team. I know you were upset with the Leicester game and you had your problem with the manager, but everything seems to be rosy again now. Arsenal will have their full team back, but like Fino said, I didn't see the game. Southampton were so much better all over the pitch. And you have every right to be confident again.
I think so, yeah. It's a really peculiar scenario, isn't it, to play the same team twice within 3 or 4 days. Yeah, you're right. Southampton played their full strength team. Arsenal definitely didn't. We were comfortably the better team. I think it will be a completely different game this time around, though. Arsenal have done well in the league recently. But to be honest, I wouldn't change it this year. I think this year I'd rather have won the FA Cup game and lose the league game than the other way around. Southampton, we're not going to get relegated this year. We're not going to be in the top 4. I think if we can finish around mid-table and have a really good run at the FA Cup, it will be a fantastic season. Arsenal aren't that good. I know they have won a few games in the league, but they are not a particularly strong team, especially without Aubameyang in there. So I really don't know which way it's going to go. Obviously, being a pessimist, I would think Arsenal may potentially win this one, but we have played them twice this year and we've caused them all kinds of problems. We drew the first one, won the second one, so let's see.
To be honest, Joe, I think you're doing Southampton a bit of a disservice, because I was just looking at that Arsenal team. They had Leno in goals, they had Cedric and Bellerin in the wing-back position, they had Gabriel and, Rob Holding. That's near enough, Tierney apart, that's a full-strength, first-team backline. Xhaka, El Nene, they had Nketiah up top instead of Aubameyang because of personal issues. But I think that's, as good an Arsenal team as you can really expect to see. They brought Lacazette on off the bench. I just thought Southampton looked hungrier, looked more sharp. They wanted to get the ball on the ground and play it. They seemed to just press so high against Arsenal, and Arteta was just very slow to change anything. I think it took them, until about 60, 65 minutes before they actually started to get, a bit of a foothold in the game. So, to be honest, I firmly expect to see a similar outcome as we did at the weekend. And, you might see Arsenal, quote unquote, strengthen their team. Aubameyang will probably come in. But I don't know, the way that Southampton are playing, I don't know if they should really be going into this game fearful of anyone.
The thing I'd add to there is you're absolutely spot on that Arsenal are still not very good, right? Arsenal have won 3 or 4 games, right? But look who they beat. So the one good team, if you like, on that record sheet, I think was it started with the Chelsea game, didn't it? But we've got to use good in inverted commas, because we all seen what's happened there over the last few weeks and so on. No, I mean they have not suddenly become world beaters, and let's not forget. Southampton were quite rightly being talked about as Champions League contenders earlier on, and they still are. And that's the thing about this insane season. Honestly, it's hilarious, isn't it? If you look at the table now, I'm not sure. Is it 10th v 11th this game now or something like that? Southampton have really slipped down the standings, haven't they? From being top of the league not that long ago. But really, all I mean is like not that much has changed. Yeah, it really is a case of 3 wins here, 3 wins there, 3 defeats here, and your whole season. That certainly the table looks completely different. But nothing is changing the fact that Southampton are a really good team and Arsenal are not. They're just not there yet. And all things being equal, you really should expect Southampton to show that they're a better football team, better coached as well.
It's really interesting what you say there about the league, because there's a lot of noise at the moment around the club around Danny Ings, because he hasn't signed his new contract, and the reason is that he wants to keep his options open for a Champions League club. But you're kind of left thinking now, like, what is a Champions League club anymore? Unless it's Man City or Liverpool, which, to be honest, Danny Ings is not going to go to either of those two clubs. Are Spurs a Champions League club? Arsenal, Leicester, United? Where else in England is Danny Ings going to go where he's going to be guaranteed Champions League football? No one knows anymore.
We don't talk too much about the purported, European Super League, but that is exactly why the top English clubs want this Super League, right? Because that's it. You cannot guarantee, like in Spain, basically you can guarantee that those top 3 clubs now, including Atleti, are pretty much guaranteed Champions League football every year. But in obviously Bayern in Germany, they know every single season they're going to go. But who, apart from Man City now, I would not include Liverpool right up with them for this year. You can't get, no one is guaranteed, which means you can't build, right? Which means you can't go out and sign that 100 million. Even if Liverpool wanted to go out and sign Mbappe now, obviously he's only going to come if they're in the Champions League, and they can't guarantee it. Like the only side that can is Man City. So, without going on a massive tangent, that is the entire point of this thing, and maybe we'll get to it in more detail, on a slightly less busy week. But that's exactly the incentives and the motivations for these super clubs to go all in on this. And we have not heard the last of this Super League, I'm sure.
I'm sure if Southampton offer Danny Ings another 25% on his wage packet, he'll be all of a sudden very happy to stay. Also at 9:15, Big Sam revival continues. I don't think so against Manchester City. Surely, Man City will make a statement with this win if they win. Should they win, or when they win, should we say, and they'll go back to the top of the league. Big Sam will have them organised and tight and everything else, but the Man City machine is starting to roar. Now, I know Aguero's been diagnosed with COVID, but they're finding a way to score a goal. And even though I thought it was very lucky against Aston Villa, technically he wasn't offside. When the player came back and robbed the ball off Tyrone Mings, which released the Man City player to score the goal. But Villa put it up to them. I think that's the way to play against Man City, is to really go for it. Sit back, you're looking for trouble. West Brom will probably sit back, and I think they're going to get trouble. Kev?
Yeah, do you know how many games Man City have won in a row now in all competitions? 10. 10 in a row. There is no stopping them. They're not going to drop any points here, and they've just got, it's the machine, like you said, it's the machine just ticks in now, and they'll find a way, and I think they're going to win the league by 20 points, which sounds ludicrous given them halfway down the season and they're actually behind, but I think they will. I think they're going to win every single game. I think they're going to win the next 20 games.
I would just say that I think I saw that Kevin De Bruyne is going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks or so, and he is a huge miss for them because he really makes them tick. He is the best player in the league. But having said that, I think Man City have got more than enough, especially the emergence of Phil Foden this year, who's been fantastic. I think he scored 9 goals already this year. I think Man City are just going to keep on winning.
So since Man City lost 5-2 to Leicester, they've conceded 7 goals. And I think that's like 15 or 16 games. 7 goals in 16 games is a ridiculous defensive record. And I know that I was, a few weeks ago talking about that they need to probably strengthen that area. But that's just showing how important it is to build from the back. And yeah, West Brom, okay, they did well to G themselves up for Bilic's last, hurrah. Here they've got no chance, I don't think. I think Man City will take 3 or 4.
Take 3 or 4 points.
Yeah.
They'll get a bonus
10
points.
Moving on to Wednesday, a couple of early games. Burnley against Aston Villa. Burnley, of course, out of the relegation zone as well. Went above Newcastle due to Newcastle losing to Villa, and that went on goal difference. Aston Villa really impressed me against Man City. Against Newcastle, they had it easy. It was a walk in the park. They've got 2 games in hand of most of the teams ahead of them. And if they win those, that's top 4 form. And they really look like a really well-coached team. They're so dangerous on the break, with Grealish and Barkley in midfield. Ollie Watkins looks really lively up front. I can see Villa having a really good season. And I think, Villa or a Leicester is going to finish in the top 4. And I can see them picking up all 3 points here against Burnley.
Burnley will make it really tight at Turf Moor. They'll be stout in defence. They'll be everything that we'd expect a Sean Dyche team to be. The only thing that I would say about Aston Villa is that, yes, they do have those 2 games in hand, but we're starting to get to the point in the season where points on the board mean considerably more than games in hand. And as we get to, late February, early March, and they start to have to play Wednesday, Saturday consistently, like the big top 4 teams do they have enough strength in depth and the training ability to, rest, recover, play, repeat kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see. If they do, then yeah, absolutely. They're definitely in the top 4 conversation. But I think here it'll be a tight one. It'll be a 1-0 win to somebody, but I don't know who.
On the other hand, Fino, Aston Villa have had a nice little rest. None of the players really suffered from COVID. They've had that nice little rest. They showed no signs of fatigue against Man City, full of energy, and again against Newcastle. Burnley, of course, played in the Cup. They won away at Fulham, and they played a strong team. Obviously, Sean Dyche believes in the Cup. Villa had no choice but to put out the kids against Liverpool because of the COVID situation. But I think Villa are a team that will win the games in hand. And I don't think they'll show much ill effect of that. And I think that they will, I think they're a well-oiled machine. Joe?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just really nice to watch Villa this year. They're playing with so much freedom and so much confidence. And I think you normally see this when a team has been fighting relegation the season before. Like, that is serious pressure. Trying to stay in the league, that is pressure. Competing for Europe is not pressure. So I think they're just playing with so much freedom. They're really great to watch, and I think that they will beat Burnley for sure.
Right, moving on. Plenty to talk about around this fixture. 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. Chelsea at Stamford Bridge against Wolves. Chelsea, at the minute, managerless. Frank Lampard's gone. It looks to all the world like Thomas Tuchel is coming in to replace him. Is this a shock? No. If it was Jurgen Klopp in charge of Chelsea, it wouldn't make a difference. Chelsea and Abramovich are ruthless. They want results, and they've showed for the last 20 years why it works. They replace managers. If they're not successful, then they replace them. And, the trophy hall, Champions League, Premier Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups, Chelsea have been unsuccessful. They don't mess around. And we're halfway through the season. Lampard clearly isn't doing it. But Abramovich doesn't care that he's an icon or he's an superstar at Chelsea or won the Champions League with it. He doesn't care. He wants results. If you're not good enough, you're gone.
Excuse me for going on maybe a bit of a rant, but I think Chelsea are just an abysmally run club at the moment. Having seen some of the rumours about what's going on behind the scenes, the fact that Lampard pushed so hard for Declan Rice, and the only reason that they didn't sign him was because they didn't like the optics of re-signing a former Chelsea youth product at exorbitant prices. They were embarrassed at the thought of re-signing potentially a world-class midfielder. Lampard served his purpose. For Chelsea, all that they wanted was somebody to come in and be the fall guy during supposedly a very tough time in their history. When they had the transfer ban, they were supposed to not do anything for a season. He would have been in. They wanted to keep the fans on side. They brought in a legend. His issue was that he outperformed what he was supposed to do. And then I was reading an Athletic article where it really does go into the kind of the detail behind it. I think only Ben Chilwell was the only summer signing that he actually sanctioned. The rest of them were all board-signed players. He wanted Tarkowski from Burnley. He got Thiago Silva. It's okay. Thiago Silva's not a bad centre-back, but he's not got the same development potential as a James Tarkowski. And I think, they'll bring in Tuchel and they'll look to him to essentially save their season. And I think probably protect 2 of their key investments. Because he's German-speaking, you'll be able to, quote-unquote, get the best out of Havertz and Werner. And just on the point of Timo Werner, I watched them against Luton at the weekend. And when you're when you put him in a team that's playing against a mid-table championship team like Luton, I'm not being over the top and saying that in that game, he wouldn't have looked out of place in that Luton team, let alone the blue of Chelsea. You just can't count on him at the moment. He's bereft of confidence, and I think that's going to be Tuchel's main goal and his main objective, because Chelsea realistically are out of European contention at the moment.
Joe, huge game in your backyard. Brighton against Fulham, 7:30. I mean, most of the lower half of the Premier League will be screaming, including Newcastle fans, for Brighton to win this game and to keep Fulham down there. Of course, Brighton won the last game. Fulham haven't won the last 6, but they do play nice football, and they're hard to beat, Fulham. This, even though it's January, for me is a relegation 6-pointer.
Yeah, you're completely right. And the implications of this game are huge. I think we were saying, so if Brighton win, then they can go 8 points clear of the bottom 3. And that's a long way back for the likes of Fulham and West Brom. And I think we're obviously counting Sheffield United as probably being relegated now. So, but if Fulham win, then the implications for the likes of Newcastle, Brighton and Palace are also huge. So I wasn't expecting Brighton to beat Leeds at all, I must admit. It's a huge win for them. And I actually think Brighton could go on a little bit of a run, because we know Fulham are solid, but they don't win many games. They seem to draw a lot of games. They're not going to come and score 2, 3 or 4 goals. So I think Brighton will be bang up for this, and I think they'll beat Fulham. And then I think, then I think it's going to be very difficult for the likes of Fulham, West Brom going forwards.
I certainly hope so, Joe. I certainly do. Looking for a Brighton win for sure. Really tasty game, Kev. I go to some park, 9:15. Everton against Leicester. I mean, I watched Leicester. I know it's the FA Cup. They dropped Vardy, but Tielemans again. The second week in a row I've raved on about him. The guy is so good. I think he's the most underrated player in the league. I really do. And Maddison, when he turns it on, his touch, is class. Leicester have got a really strong squad. Everton are in serious form. Everton have won 5 of the last 6 games in the Premier League, and a win here will take them above Liverpool into what they hope is a top 4. But Leicester themselves can effectively go joint top with Man City should Man City win as well. So there's so much at stake in this game too. And honestly, this is one I'd run away from the bookies.
Yeah, I really think Leicester, talking about the quality of the coaching, Leicester are truly one of the best coach teams around, right? They, Rodgers came in and almost immediately got them playing football again, whenever it was, a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. But now you're seeing this project really coming to fruition. And I don't think they'll ever get as lucky. It looked for a while like this season, it might be one of those seasons when no one was going to run away with it, right? It looked like all the top teams were going to be, consistently dropping points. That still might happen. Just because we say Man City are going to win every game doesn't mean they actually are. So it might still happen, but I doubt it will. So I don't think there's a title there for Leicester. I really don't, because I don't think anyone will. But in terms of the quality of the football and what a pleasure they are to watch, honestly, they're almost unrivaled. And so, I think Everton have a lot of firepower right at their disposal, and any result is possible. So, I totally agree with you. It's quite a nice, it was probably a rudimentary sort of win for them in the FA Cup at the weekend. But yeah, things look nice for Everton. But I just think that Leicester side is really top notch, and I think they'll have just too much for them.
Now, Fino, I know you're no fan of Brendan Rodgers and the pictures on his wall in his house, but you have to admit and admire, like Kevin said, they're so well coached.
He's clearly got a great footballing brain and a great footballing philosophy. We've seen it throughout his time, at various clubs. He's been afforded time, which he wasn't maybe afforded at Liverpool to really build his project in, his image. I'm sure he'll love me saying that. But I want to talk about Everton in this game because I think that they are really starting to fly under the radar. One thing that they need to do is start firing again up top. I think they over-relied on Calvert-Lewin with his blistering start to the league. But what they've done is they've kind of flipped the switch. So I did some digging into the stats, and they scored 14 goals in their first 5 Premier League games, and they scored 14 goals in the following 12. But on the flip side, they've tightened up at the back, conceding 5 in their last 8. If they can get their front end working and scoring goals, They've got some really strong players at the back that aren't conceding regularly, and I think Everton could be a really strong contender for top four. This will be a great test of that defence, no doubt. If you talk about, there's rumours that Vardy might not be fit, but Vardy, Maddison, Tielemans, I really like their wing back play as well. Even when we look at that game against Brentford, they were still playing, Ricardo Pereira at right back, Leicester. A phenomenal right back in his own right. He's just been nudged out by an even better player in James Justin. So I think it's arguably, one of the better games this week. I think Everton at home might just have enough to sneak a win, but it'll be high scoring, I hope.
Yeah, there's not much in them really, and like I said, I wouldn't like to put them in my accumulator. That's for sure. This fixture. I mean, Everton, like I said, won 5 of the last 6. Leicester have won 4 of the last 6, 2 draws. Tasty, maybe the best. The money's on a draw here, but whoever wins this game will get a big boost. That's for sure. And 2 of the best coach teams in the league. Speaking of best coach teams in the league, team that are top of the league, and a manager in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that we destroyed basically the start of the season. And what a turnaround for Manchester United, really. I mean, and that FA Cup win against Liverpool will give them the world of confidence as well. I mean, they're really hard to beat these days. And I got to say, it's a testament to Solskjaer and Man United to go to Anfield and say they could have won, and, to get the draw and grind it out. And, they're grinding out the wins. Fernandes again. I keep saying he's not the best player in the league, but he's right place at the right time, scores the winner in the cup. Sheffield United, were brilliant against Newcastle, but that doesn't take much. We know that. And that was the one game they've won. So I give them absolutely no hope at all at Old Trafford. And Man United to return to the top of the league for me after this one. Would you agree, Kev?
Obviously yes. Should be a very, very simple win for Man United. The only thing I'd say is I'm really hopeful that Klopp, chatting up Pogba in front of the cameras will completely destabilise the entire Man United dressing room as Klopp gets inside. Everyone's heads there, and Pogba now starts in his head. I think Pogba is already a Liverpool player. It's not going to, in his head. It may take a while, but it's in his head. He's already a Red.
It's an interesting game because obviously it comes 24 hours after the Man City game, and this will be a different kind of pressure for Man United. As they are the chased. I said this last week. Can they live up to the continuous pressure to win? I think here, realistically, Manchester United should win and will win. I think that their will to win is probably greater than Sheffield United's will to stay up. Sheffield United, I really feel bad for ragging on them, but even Plymouth and Bristol Rovers made it difficult for them in the FA Cup recently. There's no way that Man United can lose this game.
Yeah, I agree, Fino. I just think, will to win, but just technically in all areas of the pitch, they're a powerful team and they're very strong in every position now as well. Going back to something you said earlier on about Chelsea, and Lampard's pursuit of Declan Rice, and Chelsea and Abramovich not wanting to splash out the cash on the player who was the next, U-team player on big money, and it sounds very similar to Mr. Paul Pogba. But I think he's starting to turn things around. I've had a few mates who earlier on in the season, posted a picture of Pogba and just said, look, waste of time, waste of space. Your heart's not in the shirt. I thought he's really kind of dragged them on in the last few games, Fino.
Yeah, look, if there's one thing that you can never deride Paul Pogba for, it's for always showing for the ball. He's never going to hide in a game for Man United. He's always looking for the ball. He'll turn into players 3 times out of 4, and then on that next time, he's still going to do the exact same move because he does have that strong self-belief that if one of those times he pulls it off, he's going to set up a goal. Arguably, he's flittering around, that world-class label, and he's been doing so for the last kind of 4 or 5 years. He's done it for France. He's done it for Juventus. He needs to do it on a more consistent basis for Manchester United. It's just whether or not he feels comfortable enough at Old Trafford to be able to do so. And I do wonder whether or not if Manchester United go on to win the Premier League, whether or not he might just go, that's me done. I've done what I needed to do, and he might look elsewhere.
Man United win, Joe?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the arrival of Fernandes has given Pogba a really big kind of kick up the arse, isn't it? You're right. He's been really good the last few weeks. And I think another player who caught my eye against Liverpool was Luke Shaw, he's been, he's been criticised consistently, hasn't he, for the last few years, even by his manager when Mourinho was there. But he was absolutely outstanding against Liverpool, and you have to say he got the better of Trent Alexander Arnold.
You wonder whether that's COVID's effect, the lack of fans being in the ground, whether or not somebody like Luke Shaw could actually perform at that top level week in, week out when there's 70,000 fans screaming at you. But when there's nobody there and there's a little less pressure and maybe the game slows down a little bit more and he can see the game a little bit better, he starts to play a little bit better.
Very good point, Fino. I mean, looking at Luke Shaw last season, and he looked out of shape. And actually, when I looked at him and the mistakes he made, I thought, if I was playing Sunday League against you, I'd definitely do you. Luke Shaw. But, I have to say, you're dead right, Joe. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch at Anfield, and he's really come on leaps and bounds, like a lot of the Man United team. And we slayed them at the start, but, credit where credit is due. Man United are top of the league, and they deserve to be. And, the away wins, grinding out the wins, winning ugly, finding a way to win, like Kev says, like how Liverpool were last season. Man United are doing that, and they might not hammer Sheffield United, but I can definitely see a win. Now, the so-called or proclaimed from the podcast game of the week on Thursday night is at White Hart Lane, 9 p.m. kickoff. Fifth place Tottenham on 33 points against fourth place Liverpool on 34 points. Liverpool haven't scored a league goal since last year. But saying that, I'm not buying into any crisis. They're only 6 points off the top. They've got all these strikers who can score goals. Salah banged in a few at Old Trafford. Spurs have only won 2 of the last 6. And I think this could be the time when Liverpool pick it up again and the mini crisis will be over, because they have too much quality all over the pitch, really, to fall out of contention for the top 4, if not the league. And I think Tottenham are good opposition to play for Liverpool right now, because they're a big name and they want someone to get up for. It's not like you're playing Burnley. You're not expected to win handsomely. But I just think, Spurs are a little bit unpredictable, a little bit laxy-daisy sometimes, and Liverpool can get a result here. Kev, what do you reckon?
I would love to believe you're right, but it ain't going to happen, I don't think. I think the problems are a bit more deep-seated. Klopp talks about confidence, but it's not just that, is it? They really are shaky now at the back. Like I said once before, it's like the old days. It's like the days before Van Dijk. And you just see that they're a vulnerable team. And yeah, it is mostly confidence, probably. And so it could turn around. And you're right, like Tottenham's probably not the worst team for them to play in that sense, because they're a bit of a confident side themselves, and they're definitely capable of making errors, and they're definitely capable of making errors late on as well. So even if you're a couple of goals down against Tottenham, like no one's going to throw in the towel against Tottenham, because that they could be shaky. But I just think that Liverpool, despite like playing some. I thought they were worse actually in the FA Cup game. I thought they controlled the game for long periods of the league game against United. Didn't think they were really very good at all against United in the FA Cup. I think Klopp was almost making a point, I think, by playing Williams at centre back this time and sort of saying, we're going to play like quite an attacking game. But he was trying to show the owners some of the problems. And no, to cut long story short, I think Tottenham are going to win convincingly.
Maybe I was lost in translation, but I didn't really understand when I read Jurgen Klopp's comments on the loss to Man United would be good practice for a Tottenham game. I didn't really know what he was saying there. But tactics and tactically wise, I wonder how Jose Mourinho will go about this game. Like, I think if you're going to go at Liverpool due to them playing centre midfielders at centre half, this is the time to do it. And Spurs have fantastic attacking talent, but will Jose kind of be cautious and park the bus? Fino?
I think he'll do exactly what he's been doing for the last, 20 games. I think he'll allow the opposition to have a bit of the ball, because actually Liverpool are at their weakest when they're stretched. And so if you bring them on, he's going to have immense confidence in his defensive structures, allow Liverpool to come on to them and hit them on the counter-attack. And I think it's interesting. I mean, we've talked about, the miss of Virgil van Dijk, but, he's equally as important going forward as he is at the back. And, Trent Alexander Arnold just seems like a shadow of himself because I think, and I don't know the ins and outs of Liverpool's tactics, but if I remember correctly, Van Dijk usually plays left-sided centre-back. And so when he's got the ball, the majority of the opposition are towards the left-hand side of the pitch, giving Trent Alexander-Arnold a ton of space. And because Van Dijk is so good, he's able to ping the ball directly to him, giving him a ton of space, and then going forward, he's usually up and around there. I mean, that's how he got injured against Everton was, going up against Jordan Pickford. I just don't see how Liverpool can really do. They're obviously not going to spend any money in the transfer window, and I think that this is probably them for the foreseeable until Van Dijk comes back. I don't actually remember the last time that a team has been so built around one man, and that one man being a centre back. Look, I think Tottenham are definitely favourites in my mind for this game. I could see Liverpool hurting Tottenham definitely if if they're not at it from a defensive perspective. But yeah, Liverpool, it's a sorry state of affairs, I think.
Yeah, I think Spurs will sit back and try and hit Liverpool on the counter, which they do very well, effectively with Harry Kane and Song. But I think Liverpool, this game will suit them. And I think it'll suit their forwards. And I think, Salah, a bit of confidence, got a few goals against Man United. Mane and Firmino, they're not going to have bad games every game. It's going to have to happen sometime. So, yeah, I think Liverpool will sneak this one by the odd goal. I'll go for 2-1. Joe?
I really can't call it. I was surprised watching Liverpool at the weekend. They scored a fantastic first goal. It really was a brilliant goal. Great pass, great finish. And then you're expecting, they're back. But then they just did nothing for like the next half an hour. They were so flat. I was pretty shocked by it. And, Harry Kane and Son will be licking their lips, I think, against going up the two centre-back pairing. It's going to be a really, really interesting game. I think Spurs could just nick it,
Yeah, Liverpool can't win away. They can't win at home. But we don't care because we've got another one of Kev's poems.
We do. It's going to be grim. No, I'm looking at the halfway stage of the season. So a bit of a recap. Here we go. Half-time this season, the whistle has blown, with Liverpool stuck in their own twilight zone, where goals are just something the other team gets, and the coach has resorted to thinly veiled threats to the New England owners who must make a signing, a centre-back, or they'll just keep on declining. To describe all their problems, you'd need a thesaurus, yet somehow they're still the league's leading goal scorers. But this is a season of unending mysteries, paradox, strangeness, where a run of 3 victories can take you from first in the sack race to 0 and back again when your next one brings you 0. Just ask Frank Lampard, who lost his position as Leicester proved too canny a proposition. 2-0 on Tuesday left Frank sack adjacent, with Tuchel too tempting for a club so impatient. All told, the week's matches confirmed one impression. Liverpool are mired in post-Christmas depression, battered by Burnley, embarrassed by Barnes, an incomprehensible farewell to arms. On Tuesday and Wednesday, 2 other big games piled on their pain, adding fuel to the flames. United start slow, but then come from behind. A pounce from Cavani, a great Pogba drive. 2-1 v Fulham keeps them just ahead of a City side, filling the rest with real dread. It wasn't that they were immense against Villa, but the defence is rock solid and their instinct just killer. I haven't a clue why the first was onside, as Rodri ran back, and to Ming's great surprise, won back the wall and fed Bernardo Silva, leaving everyone but VAR quite bewildered. 10 wins from 10 now in all competitions. City look world-class in every position. Half of the season has now been and gone, and while nothing's decided, I'd call them odds on. Where else would you say can we make a prediction, bearing in mind this is just half-time fiction? It's not up to me to call time on the bosses, but Newcastle, well, they could soon cut their losses. And Jurgen, could his time be nearing an end? You'd have to be bonkers, mate, quite round the bend. But things, I believe, will get somewhat more sticky for the German, because next up they're facing a tricky trip down to London for a showdown with Spurs. Liverpool fans should be saying their prayers. I believe in the Bigfoot. I believe in the Yeti. And that deep in a loch, there's a monster called Nessie. But try as I might, I can't see there's a way. The Reds keep Son, Kane and Dombele at bay. I know, miracles happen. Hell, we got rid of Trump. Could Liverpool fight their way out of this slump? The orange twat slithered back into the slime. But predict a Reds win, I'm still biding my time.
Brilliant stuff, Kev. You deserve to soak up the sun in sunny Spain. Have a good one, Kev. Thank you.
I will. Cheers, pal.
Fino braving the rain in Scotland.
Yep, and the freezing cold weather as well.
And Joe in sunny Brighton. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JP.
This has been the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side and the bell notification so you'll be informed when we are on again. We'll be back again on Friday evening, so Saturday for you guys. Thanks a lot and enjoy the games. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.